Welcome to Buckeyes Tomorrow Morning for Saturday, April 1st. I'm your host, Tom Orr. The Indiana game is in 155 days. The game against Michigan in 231 days. Today is the student appreciation practice at Ohio State, so we are going to be there along with a whole bunch of Ohio State students to watch the Buckeyes practice this morning. We'll have some photos. We'll probably have a live show, a whole bunch of reactions and all that kind of stuff, a little bit of analysis. Always a good chance to see a bunch of different players in a bunch of different spots as the Buckeyes, not quite a scrimmage, but pretty good access for us this morning. So we'll have a bunch of that coverage coming up a little later on today at BuckeyeHuddle.com and, of course, at YouTube.com/BuckeyeHuddle. And speaking of YouTube, we put up those full interviews from the Buckeye players and coaches earlier in the week. We had Brian Hartline and Jim Knowles on Tuesday. We had a bunch of secondary guys, cornerbacks, and safeties on Thursday. And one of the things that we constantly see in the comments there is, I wish I could hear the questions. And due to the setup that we have on the indoor field, that is not technically or logistically possible for us to do. But here's what we can do. We can sort of help you out. And I was there, Tony was there, Kevin was there. So even if you can't hear the question on the video, we were there, so we can tell you what the question was. And so that's one of the reasons that these shows where we let you guys hear straight from the coaches and from the players, why these are so popular. I finally figured that out a few weeks ago. Someone commented, here's why we like this. I was like, aha, that makes sense. So, okay, we're going to do another one. We did a Jim Knowles show a couple days ago. We're going to do a Brian Hartline show today. You're going to hear us directly from Brian Hartline. And the first question that we're going to do is, the Buckeyes last Saturday also had a scrimmage. How did that first scrimmage go in Brian Hartline's mind?
Saturday was great. I mean, I think that any chance we can kind of put the players in an unscripted situation and get as game-like as you can, it's always a positive. Probably get more real reactions as players, both offensively and defensively. So Coach Day's been mixing that in from the jump, and those are, I think, our most precious periods, just from a authenticity of play standpoint, operationally as well. Just getting plays in, getting them executed, comprehending them, and then working to execute. So we've been doing that. It's been good.
Hartline got to call plays during that scrimmage. That is something that he's sort of a transition from Ryan Day to Brian Hartline that's going on right now. How is Brian Hartline liking that so far?
Yeah, it's okay. I mean, I enjoy it. I think that it's different probably in a world where we're not scheming anybody right now. I mean, we're kind of trying to put ourselves in good play calls, bad play calls, versus our defense, but not necessarily scheming, I would say. So it's a combination. It's fun. I mean, it's fun. It's just getting a feel for what's in for them right now, and then what do we have that probably is a decent call against that, and vice versa. It's really an opportunity for guys to operate, like we're alluding to, get things in, get them executed, substitute, and then let guys compete. And when we go live, that's some of the best work. Which in practice it's tough when it's stud, because we figure every single time a person's at the point of attack, we think he makes the tackle every time. And on Saturday we see that's rarely true. So, but it's fun.
After that scrimmage last week, freshman wide receiver Carnell Tate became the first member of the class of 2023 to lose his black stripe. So what went into that decision? And you're going to actually hear two answers back to back here from Brian Hartline about that basic question.
He's being, I would say he's being well detailed. I would say that he's doing a pretty good job taking meetings to the field. We talk about techniques. We talk about the details of every play, and he's pretty consistent on hitting those. Probably the best thing he's done is just the ability to make a mistake, correct it, and then move on from it. He very rarely has repeated mistakes, and that's usually a pretty good sign of a good player, a guy that's about his business, and that's really what you're hoping for. Anytime a guy comes in and handles his business off the field, I think he has all straight A's right now. He's never missed a workout. He's always on time. He's doing his job on the field. The combination of all of that, it was well deserved.
Spring is a time when young players sometimes get a chance to take on bigger roles and maybe earn a bigger spot or even a starting spot for themselves in the fall. This spring, one of the younger Buckeyes who's trying to take advantage of his extra opportunities is Jaden Ballard. Last week, he had a double move for a very big play in that scrimmage. So what did Brian Hartline think of that and Jaden Ballard's play overall?
I think it's a great yeah, I think it's a good situation where we provide guys an opportunity to make a play. We got the right look, and guys executed the play at a high level. I mean, and that's not a bad connotation. That's the reality of what we do. Coaches try to do their job, players got to do their job, and the ones that consistently make the consistent play are the better players. That's really how you judge, the level of a player is not if you can do it, but how often. And so that was a great example of guys seeing the look, executing at a high level, and then really, helping us start off with some good momentum.
Hartline was also asked, is this Jaden Ballard's time to shine? And as you'll hear, he didn't really agree with the premise of the question.
I mean, I wouldn't say it's his time. It's always his time. I think we were labeling people on when their time is. I don't understand that concept. So, I mean, as far as I'm concerned, he can be here for 6 years if he wants to. So he's halfway through his time. And yeah, he's doing a great job. I think he's in a position where he's playing faster. He's playing more consistent. I think that I'm really excited, like I have as a freshman and when he was a sophomore, that I'm excited for what's to come for Jaden. And when it comes, it's circumstantial, but at the end of the day, he's on a good path, and he knows that.
How deep is the wide receiver unit right now in terms of the number of guys that Brian Hartline would maybe feel good about putting on the field in a game situation?
A good, 6-7 deep right now, and that's really good. I would say that I would say, in my opinion, the guys that, and again, they're showing trajectory. The 4, 5, 6 is much better than it was this time last year. So everyone's being pushed, everyone's growing, and having these extra reps with a couple guys out have been awesome. And they know that those are eventually going to go away. So as long as we're maximizing those, we'll be in a much better position come fall camp.
Okay, so the natural follow-up is, or who are those 6 or 7 guys? Well, Brian Hartline was asked, and he did not want to say. But he was, however, willing to talk about the challenges of balancing his time between coaching the receivers and calling the plays.
Yeah, you can feel the difference, I think a little bit. And it's not necessarily an allocation of time, but there's probably a little more in my head a little bit that's kind of going on. But again, it's awesome. I mean, it's definitely a little more uncomfortable than it would have been this time last year. But I would say that, anytime you're uncomfortable, you have a chance to grow, which is good. I'm just trying to figure out really, where, what I find most important. And then, again, I got to allocate my time properly, because obviously recruiting is, really, really important, and connecting with people. And now I'm connecting with more guys, which is awesome, but also practice and also the receiver room. But, one thing I would say, though, my passion is still the receiver room, so that's never going to change that way. That's my home, so that's good. But there's definitely a balance of time a little bit, but it's good. I enjoy it. I mean, it's amazing how much extra time you had, and you don't really realize it. It's kind of like, what did I do when I didn't have kids? Like how did I ever have a dirty house? I don't even so it's the same kind of mindset. How did I ever think I was busy before? So.
Hartline got asked a bunch of different things about being the play caller and how things might be different this year and how big an adjustment is it going to be. Okay, so how big of an adjustment is it to call the plays? That's the question that he's asked. Now, as you're going to hear, that's not really where the answer ends up, but the answer ends up in an interesting spot, so we're going to give it to you anyway here.
I mean, it's a learning opportunity. I would say, when you go from Stats 101 to Stats 200, it's probably a learning opportunity. I mean, so, again, I know this is a wide topic, and you could talk to Coach Day. Coach Day, ask him his thoughts and all that stuff. But I think that, again, an opportunity to let the words come out of my mouth and not Coach Day's at practice. I mean, yes, there is a growing thing that's happening, and yes, there's an opportunity, but there's a pedestal it's being put on right now that we don't even know how it's all playing out in the fall. I'm not thinking of it that way. You guys, I know it's a great talking point for you guys. But I just want to get these guys ready for spring ball. I want to evaluate, identify our top 22 to 30 players. I want to come out of spring knowing, okay, these are the guys that are earning opportunities. Who are the guys that need to try to steal opportunities? And let's go from there. And so, We're working in a world of, install situational football, be great at situational football. We have other focuses on necessarily that who's calling the plays.
One of the other big plays last Saturday during the scrimmage was by G. Scott. Scott, of course, no longer one of Hartline's wide receivers, but he is a tight end, and that is a part of the offense, so he's still under Hartline's umbrella a little bit. He made a great catch last week. How has G. Scott progressed just over the last year and even just this spring?
I think he's doing a great job. I think he's, from, again, sitting back, Coach Bailey would know a little very more in depth than myself, but, I feel him. This strain he has, blocking DNs that probably have 50 pounds on them, and making a tough catch on Saturday and popping up, relatively quick, and just understanding what that can do to a defender that hit. I mean, just all of it, just the small details. I think he's doing a great job. Now he's showing he can do it. It's just now let's see him, and not how often, right? We always have the same conversation, and so I expect him to continue to progress, and he's doing a good job.
All right, let's go back to Jaden Ballard. He's kind of one of the big names that you're sort of hearing talked about this spring. Forever, you have talked about Jaden Ballard as a deep threat. You've heard us talk about Jaden Ballard as a deep threat, but can he be more than that for the Buckeyes?
Yeah, I think that's the growth that needs to happen. I mean, frankly, the deep threat needs to continue to be consistent. Like if that's all we talk about, then it's going to be really hard to play past college football because that's not the reality of after college. But his growth as a complete player is the key to all his goals. And if one of his goals is playing a lot at Ohio State or being a starter, you will not just play at Ohio State. I mean, you'll participate, that's fine, but you're not going to be one of those starters if you're not doing it all at a high level. And that's the standard, that's the goal, and he knows that, and he's growing, like we said, in all of those facets. If you make a list of them, he's doing better in all of them. So you just got to continue that trajectory, and like I said, I mean, I'm really excited for everything to come to JB. It doesn't, it's not if, it's when.
So is Ballard someone who's maybe on track to play more for Ohio State this season?
I think so. I think that definitely better than where he was last year at this time, and that's all I can go off of. Is based on last spring, that calendar. All right, now how was the fall? And part of my conversation with him was I've been PO'd at him because I thought where he could have been last fall is where he is now, and I was like, I wish where he was now was last fall. He's 6 months behind, so where I thought he was going to be. So, it's all good. So just press him, but he's doing a great job, doing a really good job. Now he's got to keep going because that's if he just stops where he's at now, it's not going to be good enough. We got to be better.
The Buckeyes have 4 true freshman wide receivers. Earlier we talked about Carnell Tate, who's already lost his black stripe. Brandon Inniss was in Columbus earlier this week attending a practice, but he's not enrolled yet. He's not coming until the summer, so that just leaves Noah Rodgers and Bryson Rodgers as the other 2 true freshman receivers on campus this spring who are practicing. So what are the biggest things those 2 guys are working on?
I think that, right now it's just their ability to continue to make mistakes and correct mistakes because they're going to happen all spring. Spring is really trying to build a foundation to help some young guys really do a great job through the summer and then do a great job in the fall camp. And now fall camp's like your 3rd time doing it all, and it all can slow down a little bit, and now we can really put our best foot forward. Right now, young guys, a lot of times, they're just always scrambling. Now, Carnell's done a great job. He's not scrambling as much. So Noah's got to do a great job, and Bryson's got to do a great job of continuing to take notes, reviewing those notes, having mistakes on a Monday or a Tuesday, and then reviewing those notes again on a Wednesday or Thursday because we practice every 2 days. You can't let the mistakes of 2 days ago show back up in 2 days because that can happen if you're not organized. So the combination of all of that, I would say, is their main focus.
For those 2 young guys and really everyone else in that wide receiver room, there are more reps available this spring with Julian Fleming and Emeka Ibuka out. So how beneficial is that for the young guys to just have more reps available to them throughout the course of the spring?
Probably get a little more, but I would still make sure they had, got some reps. I would say that. But there's definitely more. There's definitely more in the fire. You're definitely running with groups that you probably wouldn't have ran with. Yeah. I would say the competition, it's on the body of the amount of reps, is probably more who you're going against. I mean, based on how everything's rolling right now, Noah's, going with the 2s right now. And so, to go against everyone that's, 2 years old, I mean, it's just different. And you're just trying to execute and be high, and Bryson's the same way. But, they've shown great signs of making plays, and and having some savviness to him. We just got to increase consistency.
And finally, here is a very different kind of question. After big rookie years from Chris Olave with the Saints and Garrett Wilson with the Jets in the NFL, has that changed how people ranging from high school recruits to NFL personnel folks, has that changed how they maybe view Ohio State receivers?
I think the development's been good. I don't want to speak on what other people think about. That's uncomfortable. But I think that, in my opinion, there's so many variables that play into how a rookie year can go. So you just don't know. I'm proud that they finished the season. I'm proud that they stayed healthy. That's a big thing in that league, and hopefully they learn a little bit of that importance of that here. So that's great. I would say, hopefully they're a pleasure to coach up there. I hope that, again, there's more to just maybe statistically on how they're operating. I hope they appreciate them as young men, because we spend a lot of time on that, and we know who they are as men. But I would say that, I think, it's probably a good reflection of how we operate and the transition from Ohio State to the NFL, and obviously that's important, right? I mean, I didn't go to school to just stop at school. I went to school to get a degree and get a job. So while we're going to school, it's really important, but we're playing football at a really high level because we're trying to reach a goal. And I think that not only are we reaching that goal, but doing a pretty good job of operating at that goal. I'm not just becoming a CEO, I'm a really good CEO. So that's always the goal. And I think that, it's good proof in the pudding, as you'd say. But again, it's not about if you can do it, it's about how often you can do it. And that's how we operate. So a couple guys are doing a great job. Looking forward to Jackson's opportunity. And then the plethora of others that are coming behind him. So it is part of it, right? But I don't want to speculate on what other people think.
All right, and we will be back with you a little later on Saturday, probably lunchtime or so, a little after afternoon, maybe something like that. We should have a new show for you, whether it's a live show or a tape show. We'll have to kind of figure out logistically, but we're going to get a chance to watch practice this morning. We should have some photos for you. We're going to get a chance to talk to Ryan Day. We're going to have probably Kevin Noon and maybe Mark Givler and I do some kind of a show at some point for you this afternoon. Podcasts, YouTube, whatever. We'll figure it all out. It's all a little fly by the seat of your pants when you don't have a real tight schedule in terms of what exactly we'll be able to do and not this morning and this afternoon at the student appreciation practice. But whatever it is, we'll have it for you a little later on today at BuckeyeHuddle.com and, of course, at YouTube.com/BuckeyeHuddle and on your podcast platforms of choice. So make sure you're subscribed to all three of those places and you won't miss out on anything. Thank you guys all for joining us. Have a great day. We'll talk to you tomorrow.